Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the drama surrounding the Star Wars movies lately. This saga has been going on since about May, when Solo: A Star Wars Story came out in theaters, and failed. Yeah, if you hadn't heard, that movie flopped pretty damn hard, making it the first Star Wars movie to actually lose money. But as soon as the box office results started coming in, there was a very convenient news story which the SJW Star Wars media came up with to distract people from Solo. This was of course the story about the actress Kelly Marie Tran leaving social media, supposedly because she was being harassed and bullied on there. This was never actually confirmed to be the reason Tran left though, but that didn't stop the left-wing mainstream media from going ahead and running with that story anyway. This resulted in weeks and weeks of more drama. People were attacking the fans, calling them sexist and racist for not liking Solo in the previous Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, the one in which Kelly Tran is featured. Things even got so bad, Star Wars reporters and directors began threatening the fans, saying if they keep complaining about their movies, eventually they'll stop getting made. And to that I say, great. We don't want Star Wars movies to be made if they're gonna be shitty, not if they're gonna be shitty, feminist, SJW-filled garbage. And now things are coming full circle as Kelly Marie Tran is finally speaking out herself. After going radio silent since June, will we finally get a confirmation as to why she left the internet in the first place? Well, no, not really. Her statement was more of a dodge about that, and it appears to be focused on condemning Star Wars and Hollywood for being racist bigots who typecast Asians and marginalize them into niche, supporting roles. That's right, and I don't know if Kelly realizes she just did this, but it sounds like Tran is calling out Star Wars and Hollywood too, in her new op-ed piece for the New York Times. But of course, the liberal media elites are doing their best to spin this in their favor. Let's go ahead and start this story off by taking a look at an article about it from Jezebel called Kelly Marie Tran wrote a powerful op-ed about harassment and living in a white-dominated world. Check this out. Back in June, roughly 99 years ago, 2.5 months ago, not a funny joke, it was reported Kelly Marie Tran, first woman of color to have a lead role in a Star Wars film, deleted her Instagram account after facing months of harassment from angry fans, who repeatedly left racist, sexist, and otherwise cruel comments in her photos. She did so quietly and did not provide any commentary regarding her decision until Tuesday morning, when the New York Times published an op-ed in which she wrote about her lifelong battle with harassment and marginalization. The words of her harassers, she writes, seem to confirm what growing up as a woman and a person of color already taught me, that I belonged in the margins and spaces, valid only as a minor character in their lives and stories. And she used to believe them, but not anymore. Yes, I've been lied to. We all have, Tran writes, accusing the media, Hollywood decision makers, and fashion and beauty brands of brainwashing her into believing her existence was limited to the boundaries of another person's approval. Well, there's a lot to go over here. First of all, I would hardly call Rose Tico a lead role in The Last Jedi. She was barely in the movie, and she was also just a sidekick to like the third or fourth lead in the film, Finn. This was obviously a supporting role, but let's go ahead and move on from that. As for the racist, sexist, and otherwise cruel comments left on her Instagram photos, I still have never seen them. I don't doubt they exist, but you'd think at least one of these crack reporters online making this claim, you'd think they'd at least try to provide some proof, right? Wrong, I guess. And again, I'm sure there were some mean comments, but that's also par for course on the internet, especially if you're a celebrity. Come on. Next, she says the words of her harassers confirmed what growing up as a woman and person of color already taught me, that I belonged in margins and spaces, valid only as a minor character in their lives and stories. So I guess now anyone who's not white is a person of color, huh? I really don't get that. Kelly even looks pretty white to me. Hell, I think I'm more tan than her at this point. I've been going to the beach a couple times this summer. The only thing that's different between us is she's got those Asian eyes, of course. Oh well, I'm more interested in this margin and spaces bit. Sounds like she felt marginalized and pushed to the side growing up. And where is she from again? Oh look, she was born in San Diego, California. And according to Wikipedia, she grew up there, went to high school there, until later moving to Los Angeles for college. So the way I see it, Kelly is saying Southern California is racist and biased against Asians. And to that I'll have to admit, she might be right, but I will not take this as far as to say all of America is racist, or all of the world either, not even close. And we all know California is very different from the rest of America. Hell, I live here and I could tell you firsthand, it's a liberal hellhole. And it doesn't surprise me at all that Kelly felt the liberals here were racist against her. Hell, they probably still are. And that's not even getting into Hollywood specifically, which Tran briefly mentions too, saying they won't cast her in lead roles. And well, I agree. Hollywood and the Star Wars makers specifically, they did a disservice to her by putting Kelly in a 2-bit sidekick character role in The Last Jedi. What the director and writer Rian Johnson did with Tran's character was simply deplorable. He had her constantly scowling, wearing a silly green jumpsuit, and she had that ridiculous haircut too. That haircut doesn't look unique and futuristic, guys. It made her look like Mo from the Three Stooges. Nyak, nyak, nyak. Sounds like Kelly is really going off in this, and she's going full SJW too. But instead of reading more from this first article, let's go ahead and go straight to the failing New York Times and read Kelly's op-ed itself. It's called Kelly Marie Tran, I Won't Be Marginalized by Online Harassment. Check this out. It starts with an unconfirmed assertion that Kelly left Instagram in response to online harassment, added by the editor. Then Kelly finally speaks. It wasn't their words, it's that I started to believe them. Their words seemed to confirm what growing up as a woman and person of color already taught me, that I belonged in the margins and spaces, valid only as a minor character in their lives and stories. And those words awakened something deep inside of me, a feeling I thought I had grown out of. That same feeling I had when, at 9, I stopped speaking Vietnamese altogether because I was tired of hearing other kids mock me in San Diego. Or at 17 when, at dinner with my white boyfriend and his family, she apparently likes dating white guys, she also likes mocking us, interesting, I ordered a meal in perfect English, to the surprise of the waitress who exclaimed, "Wow, it's so cute you have an exchange student." Sounds like an innocent mistake. Their words reinforced a narrative I had heard my whole life, that I was other, that I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough simply because I wasn't like them. And that feeling I realize now was, and is, shame. A shame for the things that made me different, a shame for the culture from which I came from. And to me, the most disappointing thing was, I felt it all. Cry me a river. First of all, it's okay to be different. Many people prefer to be different, in fact. And second, about the culture you came from, well, Vietnam isn't the best place in the world, last time I checked. I also read that Kelly's father grew up homeless, struggling to survive, starving in the streets of Vietnam. So, not that I'm trying to say you should be ashamed of this, but at the same time, let's not pretend Vietnam is glamorous and respectable either. It's not. If she came from a developed first world Asian country like, say, Japan, then yeah, I would say that's a weird place to shame people for. But Kelly didn't. Her family came from a shithole, and that's okay too. Not everyone is born in nice places. I come from the East St. Louis area myself, and we left there in 2001 because my family wanted to live somewhere better. Just like how Kelly's parents left Vietnam to come to California because it's much better there. But now, 29 years later, and Kelly is bashing the nation which took her in and saved her family from the communists in South Asia. And I say that's pretty despicable, because the same society that taught some people they were heroes, saviors, inheritors of the manifest destiny ideal, taught me I existed only in the background of their stories, doing their nails, diagnosing their illnesses, supporting their love interests, and perhaps the most damaging, waiting for them to rescue me. And for a long time, I believed them. I believed those words, those stories, carefully crafted by a society that was built to uphold the power of one type of person, one sex, one skin tone, one existence. It reinforced within me rules that were written before I was born, rules that made my parents deem it necessary to abandon their real names and adopt American ones, Tony and Kay, so it was easier for others to pronounce. A literal erasure of culture that still has me aching to the core. And as much as I hate to admit it, I started blaming myself. I thought, oh, maybe if I was thinner, or maybe if I grow out my hair, and worst of all, maybe if I wasn't Asian. For months, I went down a spiral of self-hate into the darkest recesses of my mind, places where I tore myself apart, where I put their words above my own self-worth. Jesus. SJWs just love to blame all their problems on society, don't they? And I hate to break it to you, Kelly, but I think we've all felt this way at one point. Everyone feels like they're a freak sometimes, like we're alone, not loved, or some sort of misfit. You name it. This is just part of being human. We all feel and experience this in our lives at some point, but it's only the weak and stupid that try to blame this on someone else, on some group or society. Kelly's blaming her personal issues on someone else. She's passing the buck. She's blaming her insecurities on the big and ambiguous society in order to hide from her own lack of self-respect and self-confidence. People like her are weak because rather than taking the next step and fixing herself internally and owning her own emotional responses, weak people like Kelly try and blame someone else, anyone else, anything they can do to not take responsibility for their own issues. False confidence comes from this. It comes from blaming others and getting validation from all the other cowards that are unable to face up to their own inadequacies too. And that's exactly what happens with all these SJWs and feminists. And really, to me, this screams that she has personal issues stemming from her childhood, involving integration when her parents moved to the United States. And on top of that, Kelly is probably a narcissist too. And it was then that I realized I had been lied to. I had been brainwashed into believing that my existence was limited to the boundaries of another person's approval. I had been tricked into thinking that my body was not my own, that I was beautiful only if someone else believed it, regardless of my own opinion. I had been told and retold this by everyone, by the media, by Hollywood, by companies that profited from my insecurities, manipulating me so that I would buy their clothes, their makeup, their shoes, in order to fill a void that was perpetuated by them in the first place. Yes, I have been lied to. We all have. And it was in this realization that I felt a different shame. Not a shame for who I was, but a shame for the world I grew up in, California, and a shame for how that world treats anyone who is different, not casting them in big roles. I'm not the first person to have grown up this way. This is what it is to grow up as a person of color in a white-dominated world. This is what it is to be a woman in a society that has taught its daughters that we are worthy of love only if we are deemed attractive by its sons. This is the world I grew up in, but not the world I want to leave behind. Yeah, about that white-dominated world part, I know it may seem that way living in a big white country, but I think China, India, Iran, and all of Africa would have some some qualms with that statement. Hell, a whopping 60% of the world's population is Asian, just like you, Kelly. So if you're so hung up and troubled with living in a majority white nation, why don't you just leave and find a place where everyone looks like you? Sounds like that's what you want anyway, and you've got some Star Wars money in your pocket now, so why don't you just move to Hong Kong? No one's stopping you. But if you do want to stay here in America and reap the rewards and benefits of working here, then I would recommend you stop complaining about all the white people. Before that part, Kelly was condemning Hollywood specifically, her own industry, which I'm willing to bet companies there will question whether they should hire her anymore. Kelly has basically said that Hollywood and the media, they're all a bunch of anti-Asian, sexist, and racists. And I don't totally disagree. I do think Hollywood is terrible sometimes. I mean, I still love movies as much as the next guy, but we can't deny that their liberal biases there have been getting pretty ridiculous. And of course, the media is always terrible too, the mainstream media. With that said, I'm glad to hear me and Kelly can agree on something here. I want to live in a world where children of color don't spend their entire adolescence wishing to be white. I want to live in a world where women are not subjected to scrutiny for their appearance or their actions, or their general existence. She wants no accountability, I guess. I want to live in a world where people of all races, religions, socioeconomic classes, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities are seen as what they have always been, human beings. This is the world I want to live in, and this is the world that I will continue to work toward. These are the thoughts that run through my head every time I pick up a script, or a screenplay, or a book. I know the opportunity given to me is rare. I know that I now belong to a small group of privileged people who get to tell stories for a living. Stories that are heard and seen and digested by a world that for so long has tasted only one thing, evil white people. I know how important that is, and I'm not giving up. You might know me as Kelly. I'm the first woman of color to have a leading role in a Star Wars movie, and I am the first Asian woman to appear on the cover of Vanity Fair. My real name is Lone, and I am just getting started. Ironically enough, this could end your career, but regardless, your name's Lone? Lone, huh? That's a pretty silly name. I can see why you changed it, and boy does she sound full of herself at the end here, pretending she's changing the world by appearing in a Star Wars movie. Give me a break. And Asian women being cast in movies isn't rare at all. There are hundreds of all Asian movies being made around the world as we speak, in Hong Kong, Bangkok, Malaysia, and Japan, because those places are Asian countries, of course, and we are in a majority white country, so not having Asian leads or Asians on the cover of Vanity Fair kinda makes sense. Let's not forget, Asians only make up less than 5% of the US after all, but I will also agree that Vanity Fair and Hollywood are a bit racist too, if that's what Kelly's implying. Screw those assholes. Let's all throw them under the bus. It is kind of funny that Kelly is doing this though, since they are parts of her profession after all. In the end, Kelly still never confirmed why she left Instagram. All we got here is a weak-willed daughter of immigrants who wants to blame society for all her insecurities. I'm sorry you feel that way, Kelly, and I really hope things work out for you. I've got nothing against Miss Tran, besides what seems to be her trying to bash white people in America, when really she's actually attacking California, Hollywood, and Star Wars in the media. But I wonder if she even realized she was doing that. Oh well, don't expect her to be getting much work in the future. I'm guessing she'll appear in the next Star Wars movie out of obligation, but after that, no one in Hollywood will want to hire her again, and they shouldn't. Kelly just made herself a big, stinking liability. What do you guys think? Can we finally put this Kelly Marie Tran story to bed? Do you think our whole society is racist and sexist like she claims? Or is it more just a California and Hollywood thing? Comment your thoughts and everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.